The badass granddaughter of Genghis Khan. Did you know that one of the fiercest warriors in Mongol history was not a man but a woman who carried the blood of Genghis Khan himself? Her name was Khutulun. Born into a world where conquest defined power and courage shaped destiny. She was the granddaughter of the great Khan who ruled half the known world. Yet Khutulun's story is not a tale of soft nobility or distant royal privilege. It is the story of a warrior princess who could wrestle any man to the ground and lead armies across the windswept plains of Central Asia. Let's drift back to the 13th century. The Mongol Empire was beginning to fracture after Genghis Khan's death. His vast conquests had been divided among his descendants, each branch fighting to hold its share of the immense empire. In the western steppe, Khutulun's father Kaidu ruled the Chagatai Khanate, a powerful Mongol domain that stretched across the deserts and mountains of Central Asia. He was a direct descendant of Genghis Khan, Genghis's third son, and a man as ambitious as his legendary grandfather. Kaidu refused to submit to the great Khan in China. Instead, he waged war to preserve his independence and his line's claim to the Mongol legacy. Khutulun grew up in this world of battle and strategy. Her home was a camp of warriors, her lullaby the thunder of hooves and the whistle of arrows. While other noble girls were taught to ride gracefully or serve guests in silk tents, Khutulun trained with her brothers in archery, horse riding, and wrestling, the three pillars of Mongol strength. From an early age, she displayed a fire that set her apart. She was fast on horseback, sharp in thought, and fearless in combat. It is said that her father Kaidu loved her most among his children because she was his equal in courage. When battles erupted along the frontier, Kaidu often rode with Khutulun at his side. She did not stay behind the lines. She charged into battle wearing armor, her long hair braided beneath her helmet. Chroniclers described her as a hawk swooping into chaos, seizing prisoners, and rescuing her father from enemy traps. Some accounts even claim she once rode straight into the heart of an enemy army and tore a soldier from his horse with her bare hands. Khutulun's fame grew far beyond her tribe. Her reputation as a warrior spread through the Mongol world. But it was her skill in wrestling that made her legend unstoppable. Wrestling was the greatest sport of the Mongols, a test of strength, balance, and honor. Every festival featured great matches where men from different clans challenged each other before the crowd. Khutulun entered these contests without fear. One by one, men stepped forward to face her. And one by one, they were thrown to the ground. To make her matches more interesting, Khutulun made a bold declaration. She said she would only marry a man who could defeat her in a wrestling match. Those who lost would pay a fine of 100 horses. In a world that valued horses above gold, this was no small wager, but she was confident, as she had reason to be. Over the years, men came from distant lands to challenge her. Princes, generals, even great warriors. None succeeded. Her herd grew to an astonishing size 10,000 horses earned through victory. The people began to whisper that she was favored by the spirits. A woman blessed by the sky just like her grandfather Genghis Khan. Yet she remained unmarried, choosing freedom and honor over alliances and expectations. Let's float over to the political storm that surrounded her. The Mongol Empire was breaking apart. Rival clans fought over territory and power. Her father Kaidu stood as the last great challenger to Kublai Khan, the ruler of the Yuan dynasty in China. Kaidu refused to recognize Kublai's authority, claiming he had betrayed the old Mongol ways. The steppes became a battlefield once again. Khutulun rode with her father through this long war. She led her own detachment of warriors, striking enemy supply lines and capturing prisoners. Chronicles written by travelers like Marco Polo spoke of her with awe. He described her as the most capable and brave of all Kaidu's children, a woman who fought like a tiger and protected her father's army in moments of danger. Polo's accounts, though mixed with wonder and rumor, painted her as both warrior and symbol, a reminder that Mongol women could wield power equal to men. Her life, however, was not only a tale of strength, but also of loyalty. She was deeply devoted to her father's cause. When Kaidu's rivals tried to lure her away with marriage offers or promises of shared power, she refused them all. Her loyalty remained unbroken until the end. Kaidu relied on her advice in battle and even considered naming her as his successor, a decision that shocked the male nobles of his court. But as time passed, the weight of constant war began to wear down even the strongest hearts. Kaidu's forces suffered from exhaustion and betrayal. Kublai Khan's empire to the east was vast and resourceful, pressing his influence farther into Central Asia. The Mongol unity that once thundered across continents was fading into dust. As Kaidu's health weakened, Khutulun faced her greatest challenge, yet not from an enemy outside, but from within her own kin. Some of her brothers, jealous of her position and her father's favor, conspired against her. They feared the idea of a woman inheriting the legacy of Genghis Khan, yet Khutulun stood firm. She had never bowed to a man in combat, and she would not bow to envy either. Let's pause on the edge of the desert for a moment. The year is near 1300. The Mongol Empire that once stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the gates of Europe is now a fractured memory. Kaidu lies ill in his camp. His loyal daughter guards him as the winds of history shift once more. She does not yet know that the next moments will decide her fate and her legend. Let's pick up where the dust still hangs in the Mongol sky. Kaidu, the great rebel of the steppe, lay weakened by illness. His long war against Kublai Khan had stretched for decades. The once mighty horse armies that roared across Asia now stood weary and thin. Around his tent, whispers of succession began to stir. Who would inherit the command of the Chagatai Khanate when Kaidu's fire faded? Khutulun remained by his side. She had fought every campaign with him, riding through endless winters and scorching summers, guiding her troops with a hand as steady as steel. She was his most trusted general, his protector, and his pride. Kaidu had more than a dozen sons, yet none matched her courage. She could plan a battle, lead a raid, or crush an ambush before her brothers even lifted their swords. The bond between father and daughter was more than blood. It was forged through the rhythm of war itself. As Kaidu's strength waned, he called his chiefs together. He wanted to name a successor who could hold the clans together and defend the old Mongol traditions. Some expected him to choose his eldest son, Horus. Others believed it would be Chapar, another of his sons who had long campaigned under him. But Kaidu looked toward Khutulun. He had seen her courage tested 100 times. He had seen her lead warriors into battle and return victorious. He had trusted her judgment above all others. Yet the idea of a woman ruling the steppe made the nobles uneasy. Mongol women had power, yes. They managed wealth, advised rulers, even commanded troops. But to be Khan, to sit upon the throne of a great horde, that was another matter. The men around Kaidu murmured in protest. Some bowed their heads, unwilling to meet Khutulun's eyes. Others argued that the steppe would never follow a female leader. Kaidu, tired but defiant, said she was the only one worthy to continue his legacy. He died before he could make that decision official. His death threw the Khanate into turmoil. His sons fought among themselves for power, and Khutulun found herself surrounded by brothers who no longer saw her as an ally but as a threat. Still, she did not back down. She led her own loyal warriors and fought to keep Kaidu's territories intact. But with the empire crumbling and enemies closing in, even her unmatched strength could not hold back the storm. Let's drift over the steppes of Central Asia, where Khutulun's last battles took place. The land was vast and unforgiving, with dry winds carrying the scent of smoke and iron. Rival Mongol factions clashed constantly. The line between family and foe blurred. It is said Khutulun rode at the head of her troops in these wars, her banner flying high, a mark of defiance against anyone who challenged her. Historical records grow thin here, yet one thing remains clear. Khutulun's final years were marked by tension and betrayal. Some sources claim she was accused of plotting against her brothers. Others say they framed her, fearing her influence among the warriors. There were even rumors spread by rivals that she was too close to her father in ways that dishonored her. Lies born out of jealousy and fear. But history remembers truth through the strength of reputation, not rumor. And Khutulun's legend endured because she had already proven herself beyond question. At some point, under growing political pressure, Khutulun chose to marry. Her husband's name is lost to time. Some say he was a noble warrior of her tribe. Others say she chose him to silence the gossip that threatened her command. But her marriage did not weaken her spirit. Even as the empire faded, Khutulun remained a symbol of independence, of fierce pride, of the old Mongol code that once united nations under one banner. Let's move through the haze of her final days. Historians disagree on how Khutulun died. Some claim she fell in battle, her horse pierced by arrows as she led her troops one last time. Others suggest she was poisoned by rivals who feared her power. There are even stories that she disappeared into the desert, leaving behind only her armor and a legend that refused to die. What we do know is that by the early 1300s, her name had already become a story told around fires across the steppe. Mothers told their daughters about the warrior who never bowed to any man. Warriors spoke of the woman who won 10,000 horses and never tasted defeat. Even travelers from faraway lands carried tales of her strength and her unmatched will. Marco Polo, who heard of her exploits while visiting the Mongol court, wrote of her in his Travels *. He described a woman of incredible strength who fought beside her father and refused all suitors. Though his details were often blurred by second-hand accounts, his admiration was clear. He called her one of the greatest warriors of her time. And in his retelling, Khutulun became larger than life, half history, half legend. Centuries later, her story would inspire one of literature's most famous heroines. The Italian poet Giovanni Boccaccio took inspiration from Polo's writings and transformed Khutulun into a character named Turandot, the proud princess who challenged her suitors with impossible tasks and vowed to marry only the man who could best her. This tale spread through Europe, retold across generations until it became immortalized in Puccini's opera Turandot*. In the opera, her strength was turned into cold beauty, her independence into mystery, yet the spirit behind the story was hers. The warrior princess who demanded respect, not pity. Let's float for a moment through time itself. From the 13th century, Mongol plains to the grand opera stages of Europe, the image of Khutulun, though reshaped, has never disappeared. Her true story may have been softened or misunderstood, but the core remains untouched. She was a woman who lived by the code of the steppe, who stood shoulder to shoulder with the greatest warriors of her age, and who never surrendered her freedom for anyone. As the years rolled on, her name slipped from royal chronicles but stayed alive in oral tales. The Mongols remembered her not as a myth but as a model of courage. In some regions, wrestlers still honor her before matches, recalling the woman who never lost a single bout. She became a quiet legend woven into the cultural memory of Central Asia, a reminder that strength can carry many forms, and that the blood of Genghis Khan ran not only through conquerors, but through protectors too. Let's drift once more across the open plain. The wind hums over the empty fields where once Kaidu's banners flew. Somewhere out there, under layers of time, lies the dust that once bore Khutulun's footsteps. A warrior's trail, a daughter's loyalty. A name that still echoes when the wind rises over the Mongol steppe. Let's drift into the silence that followed her passing. The age of the great Khans was ending. The Mongol world that once thundered under Genghis Khan's command had shattered into smaller kingdoms. Yet among the ashes of empire, Khutulun's story continued to breathe. Her name was carried by travelers, poets, and storytellers across Asia. From the frozen mountains of Mongolia to the oasis towns of Samarkand and Kashgar, people spoke of the warrior princess who rode like the wind and never bowed to any man. For centuries, much of her life was hidden beneath dust and legend. Mongol chronicles, often written by male nobles, gave only glimpses of her deeds. But those fragments were powerful enough to keep her memory alive. In old tales told by herders and soldiers, she was called the defender of the steppe. Some said her horse could outrun arrows. Others said she had the spirit of Tengri, the eternal blue sky, guiding her hand. These were not just exaggerations. They were reflections of awe tribute from a people who respected strength above all else. Let's float over to how her legend survived beyond the steppe. In the 14th century, merchants and diplomats returning from Central Asia carried stories of a Mongol princess who refused every suitor until she met her equal in combat. These tales reached Europe through traders along the Silk Road. There, her story transformed. It became a romantic myth, softened by imagination yet fueled by admiration. She was no longer Khutulun, the Mongol warrior. She became Turandot, the princess of riddles, a woman who challenged men with puzzles instead of wrestling holds. The name may have changed, but the spirit remained. Puccini's famous opera Turandot*, first performed in the early 20th century, brought her legend to grand stages. In that version, she was distant and cold, a figure of mystery and pride. The opera ended not in war or glory, but in love. Yet behind the music and fantasy lay the echo of a real woman who once thundered across the plains, bow in hand, armor shining under the endless sky. The world may have turned her into a symbol of romance, but her truth was made of iron and fire. Let's now return to her homeland. Modern historians have worked to separate myth from memory. Archaeologists and scholars studying Mongol records found references to a daughter of Kaidu who fought alongside him and commanded her own troops. These fragments match the stories Marco Polo recorded during his travels. They reveal a woman not of myth but of living history, a general respected by her warriors, feared by her enemies, and honored by her people. In Mongol society, women already held a unique position. They managed wealth, made key political decisions, and advised their husbands and fathers. But Khutulun took that strength to another level. She showed that leadership did not need a title, and that respect could be earned through deeds alone. Her victories in wrestling were not simply sport. They were statements of independence in a world dominated by men. Today, historians describe her as one of the most remarkable figures of her age. Not because she sought to rule, but because she dared to live on her own terms. She did not wait for permission to fight. She did not ask for recognition. She carved her legacy with her own hands and left it written in the spirit of her people. Let's move closer to the present. In Mongolia and Central Asia, Khutulun's story has returned to light. Museums and cultural festivals now honor her as one of the great heroines of Mongol history. In traditional wrestling ceremonies, her name is invoked as a symbol of pride. Some modern Mongol women wrestlers wear her image on their uniforms, saying she is the mother of their sport. Her spirit lives in every contest where strength meets grace, where determination defies expectation. The world beyond the steppe is rediscovering her too. In books and films, Khutulun is finally being seen not as a mythical princess, but as a real woman of power. Historians are correcting the old European portrayals that turned her into a romantic fantasy. They are revealing the truth, the story of a warrior who fought beside her father, who led armies, who chose her own fate, and who embodied the relentless heart of the Mongol steppe. Let's float now over the vast land that once carried her hoofbeats. The plains stretch endlessly under the same blue sky that her ancestors worshipped. The wind still moves through the grass like waves in the sea. Somewhere, perhaps unseen, lies her resting place. No grand tomb, no marble monument. Just the open land she once ruled with courage and freedom, and maybe that is fitting. Because Khutulun was never meant to be confined by walls or titles. Her monument is the legend itself, alive in memory, carried by time. Even today, when people speak of her, they do so with a tone of quiet awe. She remains one of the rare figures in history who defied both gender and tradition, not for rebellion's sake, but for the simple belief that she could. She stood as proof that strength knows no boundaries, that legacy belongs to those who act, not those who wait. So when the wind rises over the Mongolian plains, some say it carries her voice. The voice of a warrior who once stood before armies and never flinched. The voice of a granddaughter who honored her grandfather's spirit not through conquest but through courage. The voice of Khutulun, the undefeated, the unbroken, the badass granddaughter of Genghis Khan. And as history continues to unfold, her story remains a whisper of power across the centuries. A reminder that even in the heart of the harshest world, a single soul can blaze brighter than empires.